It's day 7 of the Gospel of John, and we are reading John chapter 7. And this chapter starts off by talking about the Feast of Booths, or the Festival of the Tabernacle. And so today I actually want to take some time to teach you about the significance of this festival and what we can learn from it and apply to our life today. In Hebrew, that word, the Feast of Booths, is the word Sukkah. And Sukkah literally means it's a temporary dwelling, sort of like a shack that is constructed for the use of harvesting or traveling. And so the Sukkah is something that a farmer would construct when he's in the middle of a harvest season, that he would build these temporary dwellings to live in while they're bringing in the harvest. It's also symbolic of the types of dwellings that the Israelites lived in when they were in the wilderness for 40 years. And it's a reminder of what God had brought the Israelites out of. Because before they were in the wilderness for 40 years in search of the promised land that their father Abraham was promised, is they were slaves in Egypt. They were under Egyptian rule by King Pharaoh, and there were millions of Israelites that were captive as slaves to the Egyptian economy. And it was through the grace of God and through the leadership of Moses that God sent Moses into Egypt, and he freed millions of Israelites. And so the Feast of Booths, or the Sukkah, represents the faithfulness of God and helps us to remember what God brought us out of. Now, this particular festival is one of the pilgrimage festivals in the Jewish tradition. So there were 3 festivals, 3 holidays, where all Israelites, all Jewish people, would travel to Jerusalem and spend time at the temple remembering the faithfulness of God. Now, in this modern Christian world that we live in, we don't celebrate the Festival of Booths or necessarily Passover or Pentecost like they did in Jesus' day. But we have holidays that we celebrate like Christmas and Easter, right? So regardless of how often you spend time in church, come Easter and come Christmas, people pilgrimage, or they bring their families to church. Why? Because it's a time for us to remember the faithfulness of God. And we continue to do that as a church. There's multiple ways we do that. Through communion, we remember what Jesus did on the cross for us. Through baptism, it's a milestone day for us as believers, commemorating that moment where we decided to go from death to life spiritually, where the old life passes away and we continue to walk in this new life through the death and the resurrection of Jesus Christ. That it's a draw a line in the sand kind of moment for us. Another way that we can remember the faithfulness of God is, I believe, we can go to church. And hundreds of people are preparing right now to come to church here at Impact City Church. And millions of people across the country are preparing for church. Why? Because it's an opportunity for us to remember the faithfulness of God. Yes, we can study the Bible on our own. Yes, we can build a personal relationship with Him. But there's something about being at church with believers that reminds us of the goodness of God. So today, as you would come to Impact City Church, the first thing you might notice is you're going to see some faithful attenders. You're going to see some volunteers that are here week in and week out. And their consistency, first off, it blesses me. We couldn't do this without the faithfulness of you. But the consistency of God's people and the volunteers and the attendees here reminds me of the steadfastness and the consistency of our God. That He's the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. That His love endures forever, and He is always there for me no matter what. And so when I see those people who are here week in and week out, I'm reminded of the faithfulness of God. And every single week I meet new people. And every time I meet a new person, I'm reminded that the church is growing. Not Impact City Church alone, but the church, right? The bride of Christ. You know, the church is what's most precious to Jesus, which is why He calls it His bride. And the bride of Christ is alive and growing. Every time I see a new family, I'm reminded of that. And then thirdly, is every single week life change happens here at Impact City Church. People make decisions to make Jesus the Lord of their life. Every few weeks, we're having water baptisms, and I'm reminded of people going from death to life, deciding to begin to live for Him and to put God first. And every time I see those and I hear stories like that, I'm reminded of the transforming power of Jesus Christ, that I one day was transformed and continue to be renewed every single day, continue to grow closer to Him, that my old life passed away and that I experienced new life by the power of Jesus Christ and by the grace of God on my life. And so, how do we remember God? Well, just like the Israelites did, they had holidays. They would go into the temple. They would remember God. They would do things to remember His goodness. And one of the things that we can do to remember the goodness of God is to get to church today, to go and to worship Him, to be with His people, and to remember how much He loves us. God bless you guys. See you soon.